In My NDA, we meet three people bound by non-disclosure agreements who face extreme personal risk to expose a simple intellectual property contract, which is weaponized to silence, manipulate, and control. My NDA is directed by Miriam Shor and Juliane Dressner, and this film is Miriam's directorial debut, but Juliane Dressner has previously co-directed a film called Personal Statement, and My NDA just debuted at the 2026 South by Southwest Film Festival. Almost 2 months ago, I watched another documentary which is quite similar to this, called Silenced, at the Sundance Film Festival. But that film left me a little bit wanting. That film lacked focus, but this film, My NDA, was the film that I wanted that film to be. And this film, My NDA, is very focused and controlled and very well put together and edited, and makes it really to the viewer what it really wants to say. This film, My NDA, focused on three people who signed NDAs when they were working for their employer, and when something happened, when things went wrong, they were basically silenced by this NDA into not speaking out. We meet Ashley Costille, who worked for a tech company called SAP, and in her mid to late 20s, she went on a work trip, and on this work trip, she went out to drinks with her work colleagues, and her drink was spiked, and she doesn't remember anything. But she wakes up, and when she leaves, she kind of has flashbacks of being sexually assaulted and raped. So she goes to a doctor, and she reports this to her employer, but her employer basically sides with the rapist, and she is not getting any justice with her company. And because of the NDA agreement that she signed when she was first employed by this company, there's not really much she can do. She ends up resigning or quitting or getting fired, and then she has to live with the aftermath of this. There's also another woman who worked for Pin Interest. Her name is Ifeoma Uzoma, and she found out when she was working for Pin Interest that she was earning a lot less than other male employees in the company at the time. She is an African American, and she says that she was paid less because of her race and her skin color. So she, over like an 18-month period, she tried to negotiate with Pin Interest to get equal pay for her work, but she was not very successful. And because of the NDA that she signed when she started working with Pin Interest, she wasn't allowed to speak out, and she ended up finding out that other employees in the company were also being underpaid. But because of this NDA, she wasn't able to speak out. And then also the final person we meet in this film is Lachlan Cartwright, a former National Enquirer journalist who because of the NDA that he signed, he started working for this newspaper. And when he worked for this newspaper in the mid 2000s, he was forced to catch and kill a lot of stories, and that means when these stories were very detrimental to their subjects, and he was told by his bosses to just quash the story and not publish it. And these stories were about a lot of powerful people like Harvey Weinstein and Donald Trump and Lachlan Cartwright. He was not able to publish his stories, and that's not what he really signed up for. He was in the business of publishing stories, and breaking stories, not catching and killing them. So in this film, there's a lawyer who basically his whole career is just about NDAs. He's like a professional about these NDAs, and all three subjects in this film, they all meet with him throughout this film to discuss the NDAs and what they can do, like how they can speak out, and the risks they are taking, and how can they, because they've all left their employees, and they all feel bad about other people who work for those companies, especially the first protagonist, Ashley Costille. She finds out that there's people before her who've been raped and afterwards, and it just has a very lasting psychological impact on her. And this film does a great job. We really get to know these people, these three protagonists in this film. Especially if you're Uzoma, I think this film is shot over a long period of time, and by the end of the film, the final act of the film, Uzoma, she has left Pinterest and she's started her own company, and she's really speaking out against her NDA, and she's actually helping other people who have NDA. So it's quite inspiring for her to see her get past this moment in her life and really be a spokesperson for other people who are having difficulties in their life at the moment. And this film does a great job of really explaining in simple terms to us as a viewer what these NDAs entail and how they're used by companies, and how the history of NDAs and what they were really used to protect company secrets. But now back in the 90s and thousands, they were actually used by companies to silence people if anything goes wrong. Like at the moment, almost more than 75% of companies are using NDAs to when you're first employed by companies. So if anything goes wrong, these companies just, instead of investigating this troubled employee, they just use this NDA to just silence anybody who complains about this person. So, and we also meet lawyers in this documentary who are also using NDAs to this person comes to me with an NDA or with a sexual assault, and they want to sue this company. But when you first ask the advice of this lawyer, they use an NDA to silence you. So they're basically just trying to get cheap settlements out of these people and use their own NDAs to silence their clients. I give My NDA 4 stars out of 5. I definitely recommend checking out this film, My NDA. It really does a great job of just in simple terms explaining to the viewer what the history of NDAs and what they use and how companies are using them against a whole wide range of people in this film, and really get to know the 3 protagonists in this film, Ashley Cotterill, Ifeoma Azoma, and Lachlan Cartwright in this film. They really give a nice background of these people in this film and what they're really going up against, and how speaking out against the NDAs is really such a detriment to them and such a risk for them. So I definitely recommend checking out this film, My NDA. It's a very engrossing, very well put together documentary. Thanks for watching. What do you think of My NDA? Please comment below what you thought of the film. See you next time. Bye.